one of the key things was there was an individual who was looking out for you. It's always about who you know, not what you know. A lot of
That's
times. Can you talk about that?
absolutely. My career progression became building momentum of individuals and knowledge collectively that I was acquiring through my career. That is probably the best way I could say it. I was at Brulant, I think 3 years. We went through some organizational change. I knew I still wanted to stay in consulting. I felt like I had probably reached the point that I needed to move organizations to be able to level up back to I knew what I wanted and I knew what I didn't want. I said, I think I'm going to test the market. I called an individual who had previously worked at Brulant. His name's Mark Paczynski. And I just said, hey, Mark, I'm interested in changing jobs. Can you point me in the right direction? He said, well, as a matter of fact, this company that I work for called Centric Consulting is hiring out of the Cleveland office. And Mark was my counselor when I was at Brulant. And he said, Matt Durker is actually there in the Cleveland office. Well, Matt set 2 chairs from me in the
Mhm.
office at Brulant. Here I am reaching out to these individuals that I had worked with at Brulant. I called Matt and said, Matt, I understand you're looking for a senior manager, project manager in the Cleveland office. Can you tell me a little bit about the role? Here's where it gets really interesting. That piece sounds like that was the key, but it really wasn't. I reach out to Mark. Mark connects me with Matt. I sit down with Matt and his partner in opening that office, Joe Smuch. And we start talking about things I've done and type of work I've done. And they said, we have a project we're interested in putting you on. And it's at a company at the time was called LPS Field Services. And I think it's now called Black Knight. It had changed. And I said, oh, really? Are you working with Sheriff Fitzgibbon? You should have seen how big their eyes got. They sat back and they went, yeah. Then you must know Curtis Larson. And I rattled off like 8 people. All of these people were people I had worked with in the mortgage division at Ohio Savings Bank 4 years earlier, because LPS focuses on the loss mitigation piece that I didn't
Wow.
think I would need. That's what they focus on, property preservation and loss mitigation. And they just sat there and looked at me like, how could you know that? And I said, I worked with all of them. And they said, do you know Pat Gleasing? And I said, as a matter of fact, he was the executive, the CEO of the mortgage division at Ohio Savings. And I worked directly with him as my sponsor for every project. And they jokingly looked at me and said, you're hired. Like, all because of individuals that I worked with literally over a 8-year period from Ohio Savings through Brulant to here.